Hi guys, good morning, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Andy, if you're new, and today I decided to quickly do my Q&A video. I've been talking about doing a Q&A for the longest time, I feel like, and I just haven't gotten a chance to do it. And I know this is a strange place to be doing a Q&A inside my car, but I'm a little bit early for an appointment, so I had my camera and I thought, why not? I might as well do it now because I'm probably not going to get another chance for quite a while because I've been busy lately. So yes, if you sent in questions, thank you so much for participating, and let's get straight into it. One of the first questions is, do you have to wear heels during training? For flight attendant training, that depends on, I guess, the company you're training for. If you're talking about just your ab initio training, then the dress code is generally just a smart casual. So you can wear jeans, but just no ripped jeans. Just try not to show too much like cleavage, and you can't like show your belly button and stuff like that, so you can't wear those like two pieces. Majority of airlines like for you to dress somewhat formal, so like a shirt, a blazer and a pencil skirt, or some pants, some formal pants, you know, and like your step out heels. And if they don't tell you, it's okay to ask. Just ask whoever your instructor is. The next question was, what is the strangest thing you've ever experienced during a flight? I feel like that would probably be any medical situation I've ever had to go through would be, I think that would qualify as the strangest thing I've ever gone through. There's no two that are the exact same. I've had a fairly big guy, like a rugby player, like muscular, tall, big guy, stood up, and as he stood up, he just went completely pale in the face, and he basically passed out on top of me. So you can imagine, I'm 1.67 m, and this man was easily like 1.8, almost 1.9 meters. To me, that's a strange situation to be in. Usually muscular guys don't just fall on top of me. Which airlines normally hire new cabin crew members? It depends on the airline's intake, but majority of them do. And they'll usually, what they'll try to do, I've noticed, is they'll do an intake of people with and without experience at the same time. So if they're taking a group of like 10 flight attendants, maybe 5 of them will have previous experience and 5 of them won't. It's never just you have to have flown, because if every airline only wanted you to already have had 5 years experience flying, like where would you start? Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's not fair really, and it doesn't really make sense for them to only want people with experience. So majority of them will try to do a mix. That's what I've noticed. If it works any differently, then please let me know in the comments, because I don't speak for every airline. I don't actually know. What is the funniest thing you've ever seen? It's probably when passengers are drunk, but like good drunk. I don't actually have a specific story to tell about the funniest thing I've ever seen on board. I just know that in general, when something funny has happened, it's usually been either a drunk passenger or maybe just like a child, like a 1 or 2 year old. They say like the funniest things, they say the cutest things, and usually kids are very excited to go and see the flight deck and meet the pilots and take a picture with the pilots. And this one mom came with her young child, and she was like, hey, do you want to go see the pilots? And the pilots turned around, and like we were all like really keen to let him go in and take a picture with the pilots and everything, and he looked at them and he was like, no. And he just left. What happens if someone gets really sick or dies mid-flight? That's a serious one. If somebody gets really sick, we try to help them as best we can. We aren't nurses or doctors, so we're not actually allowed to like administer a bunch of medicine. We're not allowed to give people drips and stuff like that, but we do definitely make sure to request any help from people who are. So if we have any doctors on board and nurses on board, like if you're flying commercial, generally you'll hear that announcement being made by your flight attendants. If something, you'll know that a medical situation is happening at that point. When it does, we usually just try to help that doctor as best we can, because like I said, we're not trained. I don't know how to administer a drip or anything like that, but a doctor would, and I would just be there to help them. If somebody dies, it depends on the airline. Actually, they have different procedures that they would do. I have heard of people who move that person into like the bathrooms, the lavatories on board, that would make me quite uncomfortable to do that, honestly, because I mean, you're my passenger. I don't want to now treat you just like let's just lock you away in the toilet and close the door behind us. We're trained to help with the basics, you know, like epilepsy and someone who's nauseous, maybe if you start bleeding, stuff like that. We are allowed to help. Even things like childbirth, we're trained to help with that, but again, we're trained to help with that. We're not trained to be like an actual like OBGYN, like doing the whole thing. Like, we're trained to help because technically a woman's body kind of knows what it should do during childbirth, so we're literally there just to catch. If that kind of puts it into perspective for you. Next question. Have I ever considered joining international airlines like Emirates or Qatar? No, not really. I think before I became a flight attendant, I did go to a Qatar Airways open day. I didn't even make it through the first round. I literally dropped my CV off and then that was it. Like, I didn't get very far at all. I do know from people who have attended interviews that they don't like you to have like scars and tattoos and all that stuff. They're super strict, and I do have, I don't think you can tell very easily, but I do have like a burn mark. I burnt myself when I was like 5 or 6. So that's a visible scar on my arm. So I don't know if that's the reason I didn't make it through, or if they just didn't like me or whatever, but it just didn't work out back then. And that was before I even got my cabin crew license. That literally was just like me testing the waters. And then when I did actually get into the aviation industry in South Africa, I want to stay home. I really enjoy being South African based. I have worked for a contract company where I spend about a month or 2 in a different country operating out of there, but then I still come home. So like, that place is not my base. Johannesburg, South Africa is still my base. I want to be home now. It's just what I prefer. What countries have you lived in other than SA, South Africa, and what were the biggest challenges adjusting to the culture in those countries? So I lived in San Ramon, California for 4 months, and that wasn't really difficult to adjust to. I went and I had like in and out and everything, and the people I met there were like so lovely. I'm still in touch with them today. Then I spent a year as an au pair in the Netherlands, and that was a little bit of a culture shock, but it wasn't even that much of a culture shock because of the language. Pardon me. I need to sneeze. So it wasn't even that much of a culture shock because of the language. Like, you know, I'm South African, there's 11 languages here. Like, you go to a different city and you don't know what people are saying. So, you know, that's fairly normal. It was literally a cultural shock. And it wasn't even that much of a shock. It was something just to get used to. One of the kids having an iPad at the age of 8, like, that to me was something to get used to, because of course I was never exposed to an iPad at the age of 8. You know, were iPads even a thing when I was 8? I don't know. Stuff like that I had to get used to. They were such good people. Also, the Dutch are very straightforward. They're so straightforward. Like, I feel like in South Africa we're very like, you don't want to hurt someone's feelings if they ask you if you like their skirt, or if they say, do you want to come to my house or whatever. You're very like, oh no, I'm sorry, I've got this to do, or no, your skirt is cute, but like maybe you want to try it. Like, we still like sort of coddle each other. Whereas the Dutch, you say like, do you want to come to my house, and they're just like, no. Why not? I just don't want to. I love that, because they don't actually owe you an explanation. Sometimes people just don't want to do something, and we're allowed to just say no, and that's something that I really think is so cool. Do people really applaud after a long flight, or is that just a TV thing? No, sometimes people applaud, and it'll be like at the most random time, and like you're like, but I don't get it. Why are you applauding? The pilot is supposed to be able to land this plane. It's his job. He is trained to do this. He is supposed to be able to land this plane. Like, you don't applaud your teller at Woolworths if they give you the correct amount of change. Like, that's their job. They're supposed to do that. You know, I would definitely applaud if it's like twin engine failure and we still landed and no one got hurt. Then I would definitely applaud, because that's a scary situation to be in. A normal takeoff, normal landing, nothing special. There's really no reason to clap. Just say thank you to your crew on your way out, but you don't really need to clap when the plane lands. How do you handle passengers that hit on you And if you had to get your revenge on a troublesome passenger, what would you do? Let me answer the first part. How do you handle passengers that hit on you? I try to be polite but also professional and let them know that, like, you know, boundaries. I had a passenger once who tried to kiss my hand when they were boarding. Like, we generally have our hand out to see like the boarding pass. We like say, good morning, can I please see your boarding pass? And he took my hand and tried to kiss it, and I was just like, nope, not happening. And then people will say things like, come back to Nigeria with me, you can be my fourth wife. That's when I'm just like, oh wow, no thank you. You can't make it into a thing, because then everything will bother you if you make it a thing, and you're constantly going to be miserable, and that's not what I want to do with my life. If they're being pushy, of course, or if they touch me inappropriately, then that's a different story. Then obviously the captain has to know about that, and if I feel really uncomfortable having that person on my flight, then I'm allowed to not have them on my flight, because that's sexual harassment, and I will not still serve you on my flight if you have just sexually harassed me. If they try to take it a step further, then you also take it a step further and stop them or get them off of your plane. And then if you had to get your revenge on a troublesome passenger, what would you do? I would never get revenge on a passenger. I've had people call me names, like passengers, but that's the thing, is like, I think I'm very like thoughtful in that sense. Is like, I do realize that, you know, this person has just had like a terrible time going through the airport. By the time they get onto my plane, they just want to offload basically. And I've had people call me names and stuff, and yeah, I'll usually just tell them right then and there, like, you can't do that, would you like to leave my plane? If you're going to be treating me that way and talking to me that way, then I'd rather not do this. I'd rather you can go and fly with someone else than with me, because I will not be treated that way. I've been nothing but welcoming to you. So, you know, so usually it's right then and there. I kind of try to reason with the person. If I can see it's more of an arrogance thing, then I try to put them in their place right then and there. And if it gets to a point where I'm like, you can get off my plane, I'm happy to leave without you, you know, then usually people kind of like reel it back in. But I've never had an instance where like I seek revenge for a person, like, because again, like, I'm not here to be vengeful. I'm not here to like try to get payback at people. That's not what this job is about to me, and that's also what, like, you know, daily, that isn't what I should be looking out to do. You know, in general, I try to be more of a positive person. I don't know, I'm trying to think, if somebody did something bad to me, what revenge would I do? I think as flight attendants, generally the only thing flight attendants can possibly do is do something like, you know, spitting in a person's coffee, or putting salt instead of sugar, or something like, you know, like little things, like little, but I don't think I've ever met somebody that's actually done stuff like that. So, but I can imagine that if something like that were to happen and you wanted to get revenge, I mean, it's not like you can get revenge on the person 3 days from now. It kind of has to happen during this flight. So I would imagine that doing something like putting salt in their coffee would be probably the most extreme, or something. I don't know, I really don't know. Oh, somebody also asked me, what happens when you lose your logbook? We were supposed to fly every single day with our logbooks, but now that rule has been changed and we are not supposed to fly with our logbooks, just in case you lose it. But generally what happens when you lose it is that the company you fly for should have a backup. Like, they should have not a backup logbook of yours, but they should have a log of your flying duties and everything on their computer system and stuff. So you can kind of like refer back to that, and they can kind of like print that out for you, and then you can get a log of that, and then just get a new logbook and fill it out again, and then, you know, do the thing. Your logbook is supposed to keep your entire flying career's worth of flights, so it's quite hectic if you lose that. You want to try not to lose that. And then last question is, would you want to work for SAA? I would love to work for SAA. Honestly, I would love to work for SAA. I don't think that there's a flight attendant who starts flying not wanting to eventually fly for their national carrier. You know, SAA would be the dream for majority of South African flight attendants, I think, because then you would do like, you know, trips to New York and come back, and trips to Paris and come back, and all that stuff. And when I talk to people who have flown for SAA, like, majority of my instructors have been ex-SAA cabin crew, and I mean, the stories are amazing. Like, I'm so jealous. They're not recruiting right now, so there's nothing we can do about that. They haven't been recruiting for a couple of years, actually. I think if they did recruit, I know majority of my friends would definitely apply, and it's also a place that I would love to go as well. I think I don't think anybody starts flying and doesn't want to fly for their national carrier. And I think honestly everyone wants to get international trips, and that's probably why a lot of South African crew end up flying for places like Emirates and Qatar and Etihad, because they get those international trips out of it. So yeah, anyway guys, I gotta go, 10 minutes and I gotta be inside now, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much to everybody that sent me questions for this Q&A. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do have any follow-up questions, then please leave them in the comment section below and I will try to answer them as soon as I can. Otherwise, please don't forget to spread good vibes and be kind, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.